Hey everyone, you're listening to Midlife Matters, the podcast for women parenting teens and young adults. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Mindy and Julie to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're going to be discussing hospitality, both in and outside of our homes. Let's get started. Hey guys, it's good to see you this morning.
Hey,
Good to see you
girls.
guys.
Good to see you.
I'm always so glad when we get together like this and share what's been going on in our lives and talk about a topic that we are all interested in. One thing that's been going on in my life this week that's new since last week is I actually did watch Home Alone.
Oh my goodness. Okay, what did you think?
Well, I mean, I definitely think that kids probably like it more than adults.
What? Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah,
It's like my favorite movie.
it's our favorite.
It's funny because the kid calls his mother a dummy, and right away
Yes.
I'm like, what? Seriously?
Yeah.
She didn't do anything about that? I'm going to find it hard to watch this movie.
I know. I know.
Well, she
True.
leaves him at home.
Well, that's true too. I always had kind of wondered how that came about. I thought
Right.
just the premise of you actually left your kid at home, but when they show the sister counting the heads and
Yeah.
she misses him for the neighbor, I could definitely see how that would happen. Maybe not actually got on the plane without him, but
Right.
no, it was
Isn't that
cute.
sad? With a
And
big family, you can see how somebody can get left behind and
I know. And it's funny because Lauren actually came home the next night and had to watch it for theater hours. And she was supposed to
Oh,
take notes on, I think maybe the acting and something else in it. So it worked out perfect that she had to watch
that's
it. So I said, well, let's watch it together because I've never seen it and we already owned it. So it was good.
that's so funny. Have you ever actually left a kid somewhere?
I
Ah,
have.
yeah,
I have. Yeah.
I don't think I have.
I only have 3, and I've left Molly someplace twice, I think.
Twice?
Yeah, I left her at church on a Wednesday night, and I got halfway home and had to turn around and go get her.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
That's so funny, Julie, because it's happened twice with the same child for me too, with Grant. We actually left him at Delinia's house after like a Sunday school luncheon thing. Bryce and
Uh-huh.
I both thought each other had him. We get all the way home and Delinia calls us.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
we hadn't realized it yet. And she said, "You're missing something." And we're like, "Really? What?" And well, we felt horrible.
Well,
And
Marie, remember that Sunday we left David at home?
I
It
couldn't remember
was,
if you left him at church or you left him at home.
all the family was home for Christmas. And so I think we went to church in 4 or 5 different cars because everybody
Oh.
was at a different pace getting ready. And
Mm-hmm.
so everybody thought that David was with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get on our row. We filled up the whole row and we're kind of looking around. Oh, where's David?
Oh
And
no.
Marie, I think Steve was behind us. And I think he texted John. He goes, "You forgot David, didn't you?"
Oh my
Like it
goodness.
was so obvious what we were doing.
That's
We were,
exactly every time we take like more than one vehicle to get someplace, it's like it can happen.
How about you guys? Anything new that you've done this week?
Well, I'm actually preparing for a very long car trip all by myself. I'm going to be driving from Pennsylvania to Chattanooga tomorrow, and it's an 11 and a half hour drive. And I've never driven that far by myself.
Okay.
The funny thing is, I'm actually spending all my time not packing, but making meals so that the boys will eat something healthy while I'm gone.
Which is
that
which
should be a beautiful drive, though.
Oh, yeah.
I think you'll probably like driving by yourself. I think the downside is that there's no one to share the driving, but as far
Right.
as going at your own pace, listening to what you want to listen to, not having to break up any fights, I
It's
think
true.
that it will probably be a relaxing time.
I think so. And I actually decided I would pack all of my musical movies. I've got The Greatest Showman, I've got both Mamma Mia movies,
Oh
The Sound
wow.
of Music, all these
And
movies I love to sing to.
you won't be coming home alone. That's exciting.
I
Oh yeah.
won't. I get to go, and Abby Ray's so excited because this will be the first time I get to visit her on campus, and she's actually attending school. The last time I was there, we dropped her off. Um,
Oh,
and
that's
so
really
that,
neat.
yes, I am so excited because I get to meet all of her friends for the first time. We'll actually spend a couple of days. I'm staying in her dorm room for several nights before we go back to Knoxville for a couple of nights to check on our house.
That's going to be really fun. You'll really enjoy seeing her on her
Yes,
campus and with
in
her
her element.
friends. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited. How about y'all? What's going on?
Julie, what's up with you?
Well, this weekend I have friends from Memphis. They're friends from college days and young married days. There's three of them driving in to stay at my house all weekend. And we're going to go to this Christmas festival in Franklin. We're touring the Belmont Mansion and we've got some reservations at nice restaurants. So it's just going to be a fun weekend.
Oh,
Really
you're going to
looking forward to
enjoy
it.
that. That'll be really fun. Well, speaking of having all your friends in this weekend, that is perfect for our topic today because we're going to be talking about hospitality. And I know that you have a lot of good advice for other people that have people come in to stay. I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Yeah, this topic excites me.
One of the things that we've gone through is just to do a general overview of hospitality because I think so many people have an idea of hospitality in their minds. And sometimes it's intimidating to people. Sometimes it's something they feel overwhelmed by. So we just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of talk about what is hospitality? What does it mean to you? What is its purpose in your life? Mindy, let's start with you because I've stayed at your house many times over the years, and I know that you are always so welcoming. And in your mind, what do you think about?
What is truly important in having people over? It's completely changed from being about material things, what house I live in, how much space I have, how good of a cook I am, how nice my dishes are. Really, when hospitality finally got narrowed down in my mind, it became something that was simply it's a gift by putting others first in every possible way.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look at it that way, it takes away any materialistic aspect of it. It takes away the things that I feel inadequate in,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes away the anxiety of having a Pinterest worthy
Mhm.
table or home or experience.
Right. And that's so true. I think that as soon as we get our eyes off ourselves and more on the other person that we're being hospitable for, we do stop worrying as much about, well, what do my things look like or am I Pinterest worthy?
Right.
Julie, what does hospitality mean to you?
Well, like Mindy, I think if I was answering this question 30 years ago, I would have probably had a much different answer because I think I used to focus more on, I would use the word entertain, like, oh, we like to entertain guests. I don't know, just that word doesn't really capture the true meaning now. I think, there's certainly times that I like to do things up big, have a fancy meal, have a great looking table, but my focus has definitely moved away from that. Hospitality is living thoughtfully and generously towards other people to make them feel included and loved. Even in the New Testament, it talks about being hospitable. And I looked up the Greek word for hospitality is love of strangers. And even though we don't probably have too many strangers in our home
Mm-hmm.
today, like they did 2,000 years ago, I think that's really a beautiful description. Like it seeks to turn strangers into friends. I think that's a good thing to remember if that's your
Yeah,
purpose.
that is a really good
That's
thing.
beautiful.
I don't think
Yeah,
there's really much else that cements a friendship more than just being in somebody's home and over a meal.
Absolutely.
right. Definitely. When I was thinking about hospitality, I was thinking that it's making someone feel loved and wanted and welcome in my home. And I do agree with you, Julie. Like, I don't know if you can really be besties. I'll use that term, or just a really good friend of somebody if you've never been in their home, because that
Right.
is a huge part of your life. And the same thing, if I haven't had someone in my home, then I don't feel like they really know me. There's too many ways that you can put on a show or hide yourself outside
Mhm.
of your home. But when you invite someone into your home or they do the same for you, you really get to know that person on a more meaningful level. And I was thinking about hospitality, and I just wanted to share this little story. My parents were always very hospitable. They regularly had people over for dinner and groups that met at our house, and out of town guests stay at our house. We never had a lot of money when I was growing up, and we were particularly poor when I was in elementary school. So one year, I remember overhearing them tell this story to one of their friends. One year, they had to bring a gift to a Christmas party for a Dirty Santa exchange. It was probably their Sunday school adult Christmas party or something. And they didn't have money to buy a gift, so they took a gift box and they wrote in the top of that box, "You're invited over to our house for a Mexican meal." And they
Oh,
wrapped it up. And I remember them telling their friend that that was the most popular gift at the party. Everybody
I
wanted to
bet.
steal that gift. Well, the impression that that left in my mind was that hospitality was more important to those people than any stuff they could have gotten in that Christmas
wow.
exchange. And I remember my parents were so happy about that. And then I remember them later. I don't remember who won, but I do remember them having that couple over for a Mexican meal and my mom preparing and talking about it. So they just always really gave a great example of hospitality, and seeing it from a young age made it seem like it was an important part of life.
Yeah, what a great story and memory that you have and a good example.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that.
So we were thinking about hospitality, and it's not just for the home. What are some other places that people can be hospitable?
Well, I think you can be hospitable at church, and Marie, I think this is where I've seen a good example from you. Like in Sunday school, if a new couple comes in, you're always the first one to go over and greet them. And, because I've been to classes or churches where not one person spoke to us,
Mm,
and that is
mhm.
just such a horrible feeling. But I think eating with your coworkers
That's a good.
is a great way. I know during my break, I got to eat with other people that I worked with. I think it could be even like organizing meals for somebody that has had surgery or had a baby recently. It doesn't have to occur in the home every time. I think it could be something as simple as meeting someone in a coffee shop or a restaurant for lunch.
What about you, Mindy? Can you think of any other places where hospitality can be practiced?
Yes, I had a lot of thoughts on this question because I've been able to be at the receiving end many times of this. And also, I've had to really learn and develop my own attitude towards hospitality from a young age. Um, I remember when I was little, we had moved to a new place, and I was just painfully shy.
Mm.
Neither one of you or our listeners that know me will think that that is true whatsoever.
No, I don't believe
Um,
it.
because I'm not that way anymore. And I will say that's truly a gift from the Lord. Because when I was younger, I was always plucked out of an environment away from my couple of close friends and put into a new environment where I had to try to learn and grow again. I remember going through a stage of sitting back, trying a new church, being in elementary school, middle school, high school, and thinking, well, nobody's talking to me. They're just so mean. Like I'm brand new. Don't they want to get to know me? Well, I remember going home and complaining to my mother, who actually turned around and said, "Well, did you go and ask them their name?" I was like, "No, I'm the new kid. I shouldn't have to do that." And she said, "They're just as shy as you are." And
Hmm.
it's almost like, your mom saying the bug's more afraid of you. You're like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
But that was a turning point for me when I realized that people really are as shy as you are. And so hospitality is an attitude of selflessness. It's putting somebody else first, their needs before your own, a gift that you can give them that hopefully becomes a lifestyle for you. It's always looking out for the needs of others. It's always trying to perceive the needs of others. Whether you're the new kid or whether you're the long-standing citizen, it doesn't matter. Even being new, when I go into a workout class, I've started to ask people's names. I've learned that as I move, I need to be reaching out just as much as I hope people reach out to me, but I don't wait for that anymore. I just go ahead and reach out because life
Right.
is too short. I don't know how long I'm going to live here, and I really need good friends. So,
That's an awesome attitude,
That's
Mindy.
good.
And it's exactly why I knew you'd do fine moving. I agree with both you guys. I think that hospitality is not just at home. I love it when I go somewhere and someone is welcoming, whether it's to a new class or even if you're just going to go meet the teacher night and somebody in your child's class comes up and says, "Hey, I know so and so," or "We're so, my daughter spoke highly of your daughter," and anything like that makes
Mm-hmm.
you feel so welcome and a part of things. But an interesting question that Julie and I were talking about and she posed was, is hospitality a gift? And I just was trying to think, it definitely is characterized as a gift in the Bible, but I think a lot of times we hide behind that and we say, oh, I just don't have the gift of hospitality. And I don't believe that you need to have the gift of hospitality to be hospitable. What do you guys think?
Right. I think it is a spiritual gift, but I don't think if you don't have that gift that you get a pass. I think the Bible commends hospitality to all believers. That, like Mindy said, it's sacrificial. It's thinking of others before yourself. So those are all biblical principles.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the fruits of the Spirit. I mean, you can't know Christ and say, I just don't really love people, and that's just not who I am.
Right.
First, I think the Lord has to change our own perceptions of what it is. He really
Mm-hmm.
has to do a work in you. And then it is a sacrificial, loving gesture that you have to practice and
Mm-hmm.
learn.
And I think another difference in biblical hospitality is it's offered without expecting anything in return. I think we probably all struggle with that. Like, well, we had them over. How come they haven't had us over?
Right.
Or you do something, this was probably years ago. You do something and hoping to get a reciprocal offer or whatever. But
Right.
true biblical hospitality is just doing it because it's the right thing to do. And
Okay,
Right.
so I don't know if Marie can agree with this, but anybody out there that has more than two children will notice that your invitations suddenly begin to drop off with each added child.
I totally agree.
And so I learned a long time ago that we're a crazy mess, and it's a lot for us to go to somebody's home. So I kind of had to change that perspective and know that I was going to have to be the one to offer hospitality. If the other person, offered to help out, I would allow them to help, but I would
Mhm.
always open up my home. And I will say that this gift or this sacrificial giving of hospitality, it hits me differently depending on the length of stay. So, if this is a one night affair, that's a totally different type of giving than if it's somebody that's staying in your home and then for how long they're staying in your home.
Mm-hmm.
So, that is at the point where I really do run to the Lord, because I do need his help. It's hard to continue to give a gift of hospitality over 6 days, 7 days, 12
Right.
days,
Right. I don't think I've ever been called on to give the hospitality over 12 days. I think I would not be doing this
Mindy's
podcast right
crying.
now. I would not be doing this podcast right now had I been called on to do that. And just at this point, I think we can make a distinction also, because we're going to talk about this a little bit further on.
Okay.
I do think there's a distinction in levels of hospitality. Having one couple in your home for dinner 3
Mhm.
hours is a different level of hospitality from having a family with 5 kids over for 3 hours, to having, hosting your Sunday school party, to having a guest pass through for the weekend, to having somebody come and stay for 2 weeks. Like, there are different levels of hospitality, and we can be good at one, maybe not so good, understandably, at others. We can have ups and downs. Struggling in a certain area of hospitality doesn't mean that we're failing. It could just be the natural byproduct of that's a hard work.
Yes.
Okay, what are the biggest hindrances or anxieties to hospitality? Because I think a lot of people just immediately hear, oh, I have to have people in my home. Well, I'm just going to clam up at even the thought.
Well, I think when you invite someone into your home, you're kind of letting them into the inner sanctum,
Right.
saying, here we are. You're opening yourself up to judgment.
Mm-hmm.
You're letting people see how you spend your money. You're letting people
Oh,
see your
yeah.
style. You're letting them critique your culinary skills or lack of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's just that fear of not measuring up. And
Yes.
especially with social media and Pinterest, and you
Oh,
just
yeah.
have more to compare yourself to now.
Right.
And I to touch on what you said, Marie, I think no matter what level of hospitality, you're planning, it takes time and energy. And if you have every moment of your life scheduled out in full, then you're probably never going to have anybody over
Mm.
because you'll just kind of see people as interruptions to that. It really takes time to build friendships.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest hindrances today is people would say they just don't have time.
Hmm.
And then there's always the excuse of, oh, I don't have the gift of hospitality, or I don't have a nice enough house, or I
Mm-hmm.
can't afford to be hospitable. But it's really not an extension of your wealth. It's supposed to be an extension of you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you can make people feel welcome in simple ways. It doesn't require all the extra stuff on top. Now, if you enjoy that, that's great. Like I enjoy that part of it.
Well, and if you're like me, and I said this in one of our first few episodes, I really am not going to get to know you as a friend if I've never seen you fail. So I'm just not going to trust you. I'm just not going to.
Is that why we're such good friends?
If I've never seen one mess up in your life, then we're probably not going to be good friends because I don't feel like I really know you. And just when Julie was saying, I didn't even think about this when I was thinking about what we were going to talk about. When Julie was saying, you're really inviting them into the inner sanctum and letting them get to know you. I was remembering that John and Julie invited our family on vacation with them. And we went on vacation several years together in a row. But one of the reasons that I enjoy John and Julie so much today is that I got to see them get
At our
mad at
worst.
yeah, get mad at their kids, lose their temper, maybe be a little miffed at each other, their kids mouth off. Like those things make you human. Those things
Yes.
make me want to be your friend because I think, oh, I can let my guard down because my kids mouth off, because I
Yeah.
lose my temper, because we're not going to be able to go 7 days in perfect family harmony either.
I was going to say that if you're willing to let other people see your imperfections, then you're giving them permission to do the same.
Yes.
I think vulnerability begets trust. And it makes, sometimes if you make the first move, it'll give somebody else the freedom to reciprocate, to do the same.
How about you, Mindy? Do you feel like there are some hindrances and anxieties that keep you from being hospitable?
Well, I do feel like really just like Julie said, like you've said, the biggest hindrance is just our expectations of ourselves.
Mhm.
The perceptions that we have that things need to be perfect. It's probably the biggest thing that's changed about myself and being able to be hospitable is first of all, with each child, you're humbled even more than you thought
Definitely.
you could possibly be before. Like,
I totally
and
agree.
so with each child, my expectations just became, I'll say, more realistic.
Mhm.
And I learned with moving and with children and with life stages that being myself quickly allowed other people to be themselves. And I had much more real friendships.
So, speaking of hindrances and anxieties, I do think there are times in our lives where hospitality is easier than others. I was thinking about hospitality being particularly hard when you have little kids. It's hard for me when I had little kids to then want to invite other families over that also had little kids because it
Yes.
was like you were already at your max, but yet you
Mhm.
need that fellowship so much. So you're caught in a catch 22 because if you never invite anyone over, then you're never going to be able to commiserate on how
Right.
your life is. But if you do invite them over, you feel like you'll be living in a tornado after they
Mhm.
left or while they're there. And maybe I'm the only one. Mindy and Julie, did you ever feel that way?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to pretty much tell yourself, I'm going to do my best to clean. Hopefully it stays clean. Hopefully the kids are, being nice, while I'm trying to cook and clean and leave it that way. But then you have to know that it's going to be all for nothing because by the time your company leaves, it'll be worse than before you started if you all have little kids. So you just have to know going into it, this is going to be a lot of work, but it's totally worth it.
Yes,
I
for
agree. I
sure.
agree.
Julie, are you and John similarly minded when it comes to hospitality? Do you both enjoy having people over?
We both really do enjoy having people over, but if for those of you that know John, he is the more eager to do the inviting. So when the kids were little and he would always, want to have people over, we did have to work out some things like, okay, if we're going to do this, if I'm going to cook this meal, the house is a wreck. I'm going to need some help. I'm going to need you to vacuum, clean a bathroom. And he was always really good about doing that. And we kind of have a running joke like at church. I've had people stop me in the hall and say, Julie, the Christmas party is at your house, right? Because John said it would be fine.
Oh, thanks,
They
John.
they know him that he might not have run this by me. So, and I've kind of gotten used to that. Like I'm fine. But I know one thing, and I don't know if you ladies are like this, but I have a lot of apprehension about the invite.
Oh, you do?
I don't know if it's insecurity, like maybe nobody will want to come or they
Uh-huh.
can't come, whatever. So I always make John do the inviting.
That's so funny.
So if he does the inviting, the pressure's off, then I'm free to plan and have fun with it. But
Oh,
there's this little hill to
Right.
get past with the
Well,
invite.
yeah, that's great because then you guys really work as a team as that.
Yeah.
Bryce and I have had to grow a lot in the area of hospitality. I don't know that he totally understood what it was like when the four kids were little, and I would try to prepare to have company in our home. And we regularly had family coming and staying for longer periods of time. So, whether it be just one night, friends for dinner, or family coming and staying and preparing rooms, I don't know that he fully appreciated what that took to try to keep the house clean, not just cleaning it, but keep the house clean while planning a meal and things like that. He and I have really grown a lot together. And I'd have to say, as a couple, we've had to talk about this a lot because we have determined that it's worth the conflict, it's worth the stress to figure it out.
Let's talk hospitality specifics. What makes you feel welcomed in someone else's home? For you, what is something that, oh, I feel really comfortable here?
I'm sorry, but the first thing I thought of is just if they ask.
That
That
is
was
what that
exactly.
is
That
what
was my
I have
first thought.
down. I wrote the invitation is number one.
Please
Just inviting me
just
makes me feel
ask.
welcome.
That's exactly what I said. I thought, is this a good enough answer? But just the invitation is an honor because you are getting invited into their little private world.
Yes.
And it just makes you feel great.
All right, listeners,
Yes.
3 out of 3 people say the invite is all you need. Just
That is it.
invite someone.
Yes. I'll tell you, we have some really good friends in Georgia, Tony and Holly. She hosts our family every Easter. We laugh so hard every time we're at her house when we're together. They have every type of game you can imagine. The food is easy and she's pre planned. She's an organizer, a planner. And so I appreciate that about her because it frees her up to spend time with us when we're there.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's something I value also. And I really do try to pre plan because it helps you totally focus on your guests.
Yeah, I think if you especially are being invited somewhere for the first time, it just conveys this message that, I see you, I notice you, and I want to get to know you. And that just really feels great. Also, just some little touches like my good friends know that I love ginger snaps. And I
Oh,
have this one friend who will always buy ginger snaps when I'm going to stay at her house. And I thought that's just really cool that somebody would take the time to know that and then remember that.
it's always nice when somebody thinks about you in that way.
Mhm.
Yes.
What would be a starting point for somebody if they wanted to become more hospitable?
I would say start small, maybe invite a friend over for coffee or maybe even just dessert,
Mm-hmm.
to not have the pressure of a meal. And maybe try something impromptu so you don't obsess over your house or the plan because if you'll just do that, do the inviting, then you got to follow through with it. And the less time you have to worry about it, I think, it's better. I also think maybe setting a goal, like if this is something you were really working on and want to incorporate, say, I'm going to invite someone once a month. If that's
Mm-hmm.
too much, once every 3 months, like whatever the time frame is to set a goal because I think you'll be more likely to do it if you
Right.
have that in mind. Don't be afraid to make it potluck.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think,
Right.
maybe you could provide the main part and have people bring sides. Or
Right.
don't feel bad about ordering pizza. Like you could add a salad and dessert to kind of personalize it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one good thing that I've just kind of experienced recently is I now have a go-to meal
Okay.
that either you can have a meal in mind so that you don't have to think much about it, or you could always have those ingredients on hand. But my meal was something I discovered at Costco. It was this ravioli lasagna that they make, in their store. And I bought it a couple months ago and it was so good. I said, if we ever have company, this is company worthy food.
Mm-hmm.
Because I usually like to make my own stuff, make it homemade, but I thought I could totally serve this to people. So the day after Thanksgiving, some friends of John's were in town visiting some other family, and they were talking back and forth. And John said, "Hey, why don't you guys come over for lunch or dinner between your shopping?" And they were, "Oh, no, we can't do that. That would be too much on Julie." And I said, "No, that is fine." And I went to Costco, got that meal, totally just had to stick it in the oven. And we had 9 people over the day after Thanksgiving, and it was totally stress free.
Oh, that's great.
And our house was half Christmas, half fall Thanksgiving. All the decorations were still mixed up. I was in the process, but I didn't care. They didn't care. And it was really fun.
Oh, that's great. That's really good.
That is great. Those are all so helpful and things that I have absolutely experienced. I'll say to try to practice hospitality, plan ahead, invite somebody that's easy for you,
Mm-hmm.
somebody that maybe is somewhat casual or that you get along with well. Allow others to help. I totally agree with that. And not feeling like you have to do absolutely everything. People really don't feel as bad about coming to your house if they can bring something. I
Mm-hmm.
genuinely want to help because I know I have a large family. Shoot for fun, not perfection.
That's
That was a
perfect.
that was a big deal to me. If everyone can have a good time, if you can laugh at the imperfections, if you can laugh, I will say this about myself. One Thanksgiving, my turkey never cooked. Never. It
I
is
was hoping you could
the
tell the
most
story.
horrible story. And that morning, like it was a day of tragedy from the beginning. I cut my fingers, 3 fingers sliced on a green bean can lid. We had a
Oh.
house full. I had invited neighbors over. So 3 fingers sliced, turkey never cooked. My son was run over by another child in a wheelchair. That's not even a joke. That
On the
actually
same day?
happened. Yes. It was like I couldn't believe it. I was so out of my mind. So I mean, it was something. It was trying to then laugh through the imperfections of the day. So the first thing was, hey, let's have dessert first. Oh yeah, that'll be fun as we wait for the turkey to cook. Then an hour later, it was okay. Let's pull out the sides because I had been reheating them all day. It was the worst.
I
But
loved how you were posting throughout the day too.
throughout oh my gosh, it was like, "Turkey's still not done, turkey's still not done." I to this day, I wanted to shoot the turkey with a gun. I wanted to tie it to the back of the minivan and drive it around the block. I was so mad at this turkey. I don't know what happened. I really don't, because I had cooked like 8 turkeys before that because I was used to hosting.
Mm-hmm.
That put me in a place of humility, total total and utter humility. Everyone got such a kick out of it. And to this day, it is still the funniest story. The Thanksgiving that I ended up having to get my fingers glued the next day because they were such deep cuts.
Well, Mindy, I actually think of that story every time I have to make a turkey, and I'm frustrated because I've checked it 3 times over the course of an hour, and it seems like the thermometer is not progressing. And then I think, well, at least my fingers aren't sliced open,
That's
and
right.
I don't have a house full of people right this second.
Oh man, it was just like I said, it was something that put me to even a more humble state than I had already been. I didn't think I could get lower.
Yes,
But
yes.
I will tell all of our listeners that to this day, I now happily buy a cooked turkey from Honey Baked Ham. It is cooked. It is delicious. It looks like a turkey, so it's not already like pre-sliced.
Right.
And I buy that every year now. And Thanksgiving is so much more enjoyable.
Good for you.
That's great. Yeah, I was thinking about things that people could do, and I agree with Julie, like inviting just a friend or two over for dessert or to play cards. I think it's important for you to have people over for the sake of your kids. You
Mhm.
cannot hope to raise hospitable kids and young adults if you never had anyone over. It's just not probably going to happen unless maybe they were born with the actual gift of hospitality. But in general, I think that if you grow up having had that modeled for you, then you're less intimidated by it. And I think it's important for your kids to see you laugh and have fun with your friends. And I
Yes.
think it's okay too. I mean, my parents used to do this a lot to just make it adults only. And they used to have us have to go to bed or go in another room. And I can remember sneaking out to kind of spy in the hallway and listen to their conversation. It's important for them to see you in another light. It's important for them to see or hear you talk about taking someone a meal, hosting
Mhm.
a baby shower. It's important for them to see you have the holidays at your house once in a while, to host a birthday party. It shows them that those are valuable and fun and necessary for relationships to grow. So I think, starting small and building on it, but start anywhere. Like we said, just invite someone to anything and just
Yes.
move on from there.
Yes.
One thing that does always kind of make me cringe, and I wonder, well, here I am talking about setting a good example for my kids, but does it ever not happen that people are coming over in the last half hour? It's like, kids do this, Steve do that, John do that, we got to do this. And you're like trying to finish up last details. Does that ever not happen in your house?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of last minute stuff.
Well, just as I was thinking about that this morning, I got on Facebook and Abigail had sent me a message, and it was this video. The title of it is Every Mom Before Company Comes. And the guy's making fun of moms who are like, fluff the pillows, make your bed, get that dust off the light bulb. Don't touch the dog until the company leaves. If you touch the dog, she'll shed. I mean, he's really doing a lot of satire. But I thought, I cannot be the only mom that this kind of thing happens to if they're making funny videos and they're going viral.
We have a tradition in our house, and that's right before people walk through the door and everything's ready. One of my boys inevitably walks up carpeted stairs with mud. It has happened almost every single time.
Well, our downstairs bathroom, the one that guests would use, I would never build my house with the bathroom right off the main area.
No.
So I've learned over the years that before people come, like an hour before they come, I actually close that door, put a sign on it, and say, do not use this bathroom. Because they will decide to use that bathroom 5 minutes before somebody walks through the door. And it will not just be a quick use.
Oh,
Right.
no.
That's actually what I was going to say, Marie.
Yes.
It's the hall bathroom. We have 5 bathrooms in this house, and they use the hall bathroom, which, is you can see it from the front door.
Right.
I
And it's like, why? Why would you do that?
I think
I
I
just
can hear
don't
you
get it.
saying that, Julie. We have 5 bathrooms in this house, and you choose to use the
it's
one.
I mean,
so
it
true.
makes no sense to me. There's water all over the sink and mirror where they've splashed from their hands, the towels all crumpled. Some
So
lighted candles, getting new towels.
Yes.
anyway, just know that if you do have those last minute stressors, those are normal. They make viral videos that make your kids laugh about them. And you still need to just move past it. All right. So I'm going to just totally leave this area of expertise to you, Julie and Mindy, because we're going to talk about how to set up a guest room for guests. And I know that you guys host guests frequently in your home. So what do you consider just some of the touches that you put on a room to make it more welcoming?
Well, this has changed for me over the years because I've had different size homes and different amount of people in it. When we're going to have company for a long time, depending on what size home and the children that we had, I really tried to give our guests a room to themselves with a comfortable bed and their own bathroom. Now, sometimes that has meant that 4 children are sharing my bathroom with
Mhm.
me. But I have felt over time that that was really a gift that I could give them. And I would chart out shower times to get all of 6 of us through the shower in my bathroom. But I knew I could guarantee that the guest toilet would stay clean and the guest room would stay clean. Then it's really just clean sheets, clean pillows, clean blankets, extra blankets for the room. They will inevitably need an extra blanket, clean towels, washcloths for their bathroom, extra toilet paper, soap is always a must. They always needed lamps by the bed. I knew that they would want to be able to see. They need electrical outlets that are visible and not overused so that they can plug in their phones. And then I like to also have kind of a little basket of food, granola bars or crackers, water bottles that they can grab because they're going to be hungry. Maybe they didn't like the dinner you made or
Yeah.
Or they need some water in the middle of the night. They don't want to have to go traipsing through the house. And I'll also say night lights in the hallways.
Those are all great ideas. How about you, Julie?
Well, I think Mindy pretty much covered it all. I do think it's good to have some of their favorites on hand if you know them. I do always have a little basket of toiletries, bottled water, snacks, because sometimes people take medication at night. And like you said, they may not feel comfortable in their pajamas coming down to the kitchen or having to root through your pantry for a snack. And then I like to show them where things are in the pantry and the fridge, like for breakfast. If they get up early, I want them to feel like they can go ahead and eat. Like if I've made a casserole or whatever, they can go ahead and heat it up. They don't have to wait on me. Oh, one other thing too, Mindy, you mentioned the light by the bed, is I keep my magazines that I get, like Southern Living or Coastal Living or whatever.
No, that's a
I
great
just
idea.
keep all those old copies up by the bed in a basket just for, I know that's kind of fun to just read before you go to bed, or if you wake up in the middle of the night and can't sleep. Or
the biggest hosting opportunity that we had was this last May when our daughter graduated from high school, and we were hosting family from way out of town, hours and hours away out of town. And so our house hosted 18 people for over the course of a week.
That's amazing.
And so this was an absolute event. Our home became a bed and breakfast. And at that level of hospitality, it just takes a lot of planning. Bryce had actually made an Excel spreadsheet of everyone's arrival times, departure times. Everyone had an assigned parking spot in our driveway so that there was no conflict with parking. We had a record of events, and every meal was planned. It was so much fun. Everyone had a blast. We have never had both sides of our family in our home like that before.
Oh, what a special time, because you didn't know at the time that you would move 11 or 12 hours away from both sides of your family, and that this was a big celebration in your family's life, and you'll always have that wonderful memory. Yes. And you may never live in another house that had the resources that that house had to even host 18 people.
I'm really not planning on it. It was a wonderful resource, you're right, to be able to use that home and treat it like a bed and breakfast. But I will say I'm happily living in under 2,000 square feet right now.
I know we hosted Molly's in-laws the week of Molly's wedding. So they have 4 kids. So there were 6 of them. And it was really, really fun. And it did take, I wasn't nearly as organized as you were, Minnie, but I did have the meals planned out and all the things that we were doing. And I had people say, why did you do that? That sounds insane. Or, that you really gave up time with your family to do that. But I didn't feel that way at all. Like everybody kind of helped and shared in all the wedding plans, and it was actually a help to have them here, and it was fun. And I feel like I've always felt like, especially now that our kids are leaving, we have more and more bedrooms available, that if I'm going to stay in this house, we need to use it. It is a resource to use to serve other people.
Right.
I felt that way. If the Lord allowed us to have the house, he gave it to us to use it. And so we have always felt that we needed to use it. We had that size of home. And so we allowed our church family to use it for whatever party they asked us to throw. Yes, it is a responsibility, a talent to be used.
Right. And we're going to talk about this some more because we really want to do an episode on the advantages of big houses versus small houses. But I just want to encourage people out there. I do not live in a big house compared to the size of family that I have. 7 people in the house, and we just don't have large rooms to gather in, and you don't have to have huge spaces to have even a lot of people over.
Sometimes when you're forced in a smaller space to be with people, the interaction's better.
Mhm.
You can't spread out so much and just be off with 1 or 2 people. Everybody's right there.
Right. So I just encourage people that whether you have a large or a small area to host, there's something that you can do, and people don't mind being squished up. Like, even around a table. I mean, my table's probably technically supposed to have 10 people around it, but I've fit easily 14 or 15, and you just eat close together. Like, if everyone doesn't have the recommended amount of room for their plate and napkin, who cares? I never care about stuff like that. I would rather have more people be at the table and be able to talk to more people than that I had my own personal space around me.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
So don't worry about those kind of things. Like we said, just get your invitation out there.
That's right.
Yes. Invite someone.
Definitely whoever's listening, we'll be the first ones there.
We'll be there.
Waiting.
We'll bring something with us.
That's true.
We don't mind pizza.
No. All right. So I think these are some great ideas. I'm looking forward to this season of having people in our home because I really do enjoy that. And I really do enjoy just the laughter. And I love the feeling that you get after people leave and that warm glow of that was a really fun time. Friends, we're so glad you joined us today. We'd love to hear your questions and comments about today's episode or any suggestions you have for future topics. You can find us at Midlife Matters Podcast on both Facebook and Instagram. You can also contact us at our website, midlifematterspodcast.com. Our email is midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. We hope you'll join us next week as we talk about marriage in the middle years. See you then.